the Podfix Network.
Hello and welcome to episode 213 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie films to studio films and everything in between. How to make them, how to get them made, and how to try to
not fuck it up.
In our very, very humble opinion. I am Giles Alderson. I'm a writer, director and a producer, and I'm delighted to welcome on my co-host today, a director who's made 3 feature films, filmed 4 shorts and numerous commercials. It is the wonderful Christian James. Hello, buddy.
Hi, Giles. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Now, today's episode, boys and girls, ladies and germs, is with the fantastic director, Christopher Smith. Now, if you don't know Christopher Smith, then you don't know your horror, because he is kind of a legend in the world.
Trailblazer.
A trailblazer,
yeah.
You might say, in the world of horror. The films he's made that you will know of or heard of, his debut Creep, and then there was Severance starring Danny Dyer, which actually is a brilliant movie.
It's top banana, yep.
Yeah, Triangle with Melissa George is a brilliant, creepy horror film. Black Death, starring Sean Bean, Eddie Redmayne, and podcast alumni Andy Nyman. Chernobyl Diaries, Get Santa, and Detours films. And on TV, he's done Alex Rider recently, Curfew, Riviera, Crossing Lines, and the rather brilliant Temple. And his latest movie, The Banishing, starring Jessica Brown Findlay, is out now. Christian James, what a brilliant chat we had with Christopher. Wasn't it a delight?
He is a gent, and I think what comes across in his films is personality, and Christopher has tons and tons of that, and I think that's what we really dig into. I think that's what's most interesting about him and what makes him quite a fascinating character to chat to, and he is just spewing info, absolutely pouring out of him. Lots of hints and tips.
So many. But speaking of hints and tips, what can people take away? What can we tease our listeners?
What can we tease, Charles?
What does Christopher tease us with?
Let me unzip my trousers.
Oh gosh. Gosh.
Yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge, talking about what he's learned as a director, learning to embrace his strengths, his weaknesses, dealing and manoeuvring around agents and managers. He hits on that a bit. So yeah,
the agents and managers was really, really interesting. He also talks about when he was working on set and the vibe you need to have on set working with actors, and how sometimes the director does need to lay down the law eventually, he says. And he also talks about working with writers and reworking the script. And he also talks about locations, how important they are, budgets, and casting. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. This is an absolute delight. I've been wanting to get Christopher on this podcast for so long. Honestly, since I first started, I've got a list of names still on my wall here. And Christopher Smith.
Charles, what else is on your list?
Oh, you were first on the list.
No, I said what else was on your list?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to tell you what else is on the list.
I was hoping to get
Most of them are ticked off.
Yeah, good.
I ticked them off. No, but Christopher Smith was one of those I wanted to get, so I'm delighted because The Banishing's just come out. It's the perfect time to talk to him about making that movie, and we do dive deep into how he made that movie. It is a delight. It is out now, released through Vertigo. It's coming on Shudder very soon as well, but it is now available on all platforms, so do go check it out. Sky Movies as well. It's a delight, and he's just such a great filmmaker.
Check it out. No, it's good.
So that is all coming up for you very soon. But talking about that vibe on set, Christian James.
Yes, Giles.
He was talking how important it is, to work with actors and to create that kind of atmosphere. Now, I thought, let's touch on this at the beginning because it is important for filmmakers to know how important it is to have a good vibe on set. Now, what do you think of that? And I kind of know the answer, but our audience don't. So.
No, yes, I suppose you've been that. Well, I guess the toughest thing I always think about, and I think I've straddled this from 2 points of view. I had a sort of watershed moment where I was actually thrown in front of camera once. I was director on this job, and I was the on-camera talent didn't turn up, so it was like, well, CJ, just do your thing, but just do it on camera. And I was like, what?
That's my thing. Oh my god, trousers down.
Yeah. Oh no, not that thing. Okay, sorry.
Oh, yes, sorry. Okay. The smaller thing.
Call the authorities. And I was thrown in front of the camera, and long story short, it was painful, awful, embarrassing, and uncomfortable. After that, I always remembered what it's like for actors to come in. So I always think when dealing with actors, just be there, because they're complete strangers, and they've got on the tube or got on the bus or driven there, and they don't know anybody, and they've turned up, and it's like, I think for actors, it's always that first day at school feeling. In front of 30 or 40 people who have been there probably for a few days. It's rare as an actor you come in day one. Mostly you're coming in week two, end of week one, week two, and there's a rhythm that's already been established. And I really feel for the actors coming in, and I never accounted for that.
No, I make a point now of, if I can, obviously if there's stuff going on it's very difficult, but as soon as I'll tell my first or to tell the second, that as soon as a certain actor has come in, if it's not first day, second, third, fourth, whatever, right on the end, I'll say, let me know when they're here, and as soon as, if I see them, I'll go straight over and go, hello, welcome to the set.
Yeah.
Don't worry, today's going to be fun, we're going to get through it, it's going to be brilliant. Any questions, just come and ask me, relax, take your time now to get ready, and I'll see you soon. And I'd have loved that as an actor. And I think I remember director did it to me once, and it made me feel amazing. Like I was special. So why not? Actors need to relax, because there's nothing worse being a day player. A couple of lines.
I always try and break up that. I try and break up and sabotage the action and cut moment, because I always find when you say action, a lot of people think everyone's got to almost like all crew freeze. If they're behind the camera, they sort of freeze. And anyone on camera just thinks, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up. Whereas I think, so if I say something and we throw some stuff back and forth, and you can break that sort of moment of tension down on the first few takes. And I always say on the commercials, which I do a lot of, it's always, look, we're going to do a bunch of takes, we're not going to use them, we're going to throw them away. But that's always... It's never true. I always use them. In fact, I'm running out of time. I'm like, shit, I've got to use this take. I really have to use this take. But I always say, these first few, we'll throw them away. It's just practice.
Perfect. I love that. Especially on commercials, because you have to hit certain beats, and timings is so important. The actor has this, you've got to fit in within, a 20-second or 30-second advert or whatever. It's really important that they hit the beats in the time you need. So they have to be relaxed, because they're so tense that first take. So that's lovely to hear. Oh my gosh. Coming up for you on Friday is a very, very special bonus edition. The making of David Fincher's Mank. We get to sit down with the production designer, Don Burt, the costume head, Trish Summerfield, the makeup and hair designer, Gigi Williams, and the cinematographer, Eric Messerschmidt.
That's a good name.
It's a great name, but it's also an absolutely fantastic lineup for you. That is for you. It's a bonus episode on Friday. Mank is nominated for 6 BAFTAs and 10 Oscars. Oh my gosh, I'm over the moon we've got this. So that's for you, bonus episode on Friday. I am editing that all week because it's a marathon.
So Giles, are they in one? Is it a round table? How does it work?
It's a lot of people. It's one at a time, 20 minutes each. Eric talks about cinematography, Gigi talks about hair and makeup, etc, etc. That is for you on Friday. So let's get to our amazing episode with the fantastic, wonderful, delightful director of The Banishing.
Oh, damn it. I thought you... Go again, go.
The delightful, absolutely fascinating director of The Banishing, who joins us live from the edit suite of Temple Season 2. It is...
Christopher Smith.
Enjoy, everyone. Hello, buddy.
How are you, all right?
I'm all right, thanks, Chris. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I just was looking through your podcast and realised you've been on the phone to Gerard, who's done Muscle and all that.
Oh, so yeah, Gerard's great.
I love Gerard. We've sort of found ourselves at film. We've had the sort of lovely pleasure of finding ourselves at film festivals where we were both together, and we've just got we've had some horrendous long nights.
You mean great horrendous long nights?
Great nights, yeah, yes. Great nights. That Anyway, how you doing?
I'm very good. Meets Christian James. He's joining us.
Hello.
As well.
How you doing, Chris? Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Christopher. How you doing? You're right. You're good. How are
I'm
you?
very good, thanks. Yeah, we're just in the edit suite actually doing a Temple season 2. We've been doing that all year, so very luckily had a job to do. Yeah, with Mark. Yeah, the new season we were really pleased with it. It's really it's become really twisty, plotty, really kind of fun. It's taken all the best stuff of one really and really ran with it.
Yeah, no, we've got Eliza's coming on the podcast soon.
Oh, is
Liza
she? Oh,
Marshall.
great.
Yeah, she said she'd come. You know, she's one of these who doesn't often do interviews, and she was like, "No, I'll come on." I was like, "Fantastic," because I
Liza's
know
amazing. I love
she
her.
is.
She's great.
I know Mark really well,
Yeah,
Mark Strong
yeah,
from
yeah.
football.
Oh, great.
So listen, it's an absolute delight to have you on, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The Banishing is amazing. I really enjoyed it. I love the twist, the doubles, all that kind of stuff that you always bring with your films as well. It's kind of this, not always, but you often play with the doubles in your films and the sort of seeing each other. You know, the main character might see themselves in your films. And you started off with Danny Dyer, I think, in Severance.
That's true. I did. Yeah, that's true.
And you've continued this trend. Triangle obviously is one of my favorite films, and CJ, we talk about that a lot as influences for us as filmmakers, and CJ's a big horror filmmaker as well, and just incredible. I just wanted to touch on first is horror, obviously, because that's kind of the genre. Obviously you're doing Temple now, which is not horror, but generally your films tend to be horror. Is that something that you wanted to go down from the instance and kept going down, you know, to talk about genre and specifics?
Yeah, I think I was a huge fan when I was growing up. I was at that very fortunate age of, you know, having the video nasties and video shops and all of that. So suddenly you had access to all of these movies that you could only really see in the kind of flea pit cinemas in the early 80s. Suddenly they're all over video. And I just really got into them then. And I had no intention a great plan of making horror movies. And it wasn't until I tried to enter into the industry with a thriller and something else that didn't quite get picked up. And someone said to me, you know, Neil Marshall, this new filmmaker, has just done a film called Dog Soldiers. Why don't you write a horror? And I was like, fuck, I love horror. I've watched every horror movie there is. So I quickly went off and wrote Creep. And then pretty soon after, I was offered the script that James Moran had done for Severance. And then I came up with Triangle, and then I was offered Black Death. So before I knew it, I'd done 4, and with no plan whatsoever. It had happened. And then I was like, okay, well, now I want to go and do the other things I want to do. And I started trying other stuff. And bizarrely, I found myself coming kind of full circle in a way to really wanting to get back in and into doing horror more, because I find that not just horror, but the whole genre, not only is genre become so, you know, accessible and no longer niche, it's very mainstream now. Yeah, I've just found myself kind of going full circle, a bit like in Triangle, coming back and seeing myself and going, I think you should have stayed doing that. So I'm coming back, and I've actually got a few more projects coming now that are one in particular that's very much in line with the ideas of Triangle.
Oh, really?
So
yeah. Yeah, well, it's great because you did get that initial, for me as a filmmaker growing up, and CJ, I'm sure you're exactly the same, having that someone like you blowing up into the scene, you know, was like, you were someone up there. You were someone who was making these fantastic horror movies and just keeping going with them as well. It wasn't like you'd put out a naff one or one. They were all just absolutely fantastic movies. And it was really wonderful for us to sort of look up to and inspire us to sort of go, look, that's the level and we can do that. Well, we can hope to do that. We can attempt to do that in some way. And I don't know, how did it feel at the time? Because this was when DVDs were a huge boom as well, you know, and the market was slightly different.
It was different. Funny enough, my editors were, you know, had made some films, and I was saying that is it harder now than it was then? And only it felt very hard then, but it's harder now, I think, in the sense that there was a DVD market that we didn't really take for granted. In fact, DVD was a dirty word. You didn't want to make a film that went straight on DVD.
Indeed.
Whereas now you go, hey, VOD has taken all the pressure off me. I can just make a film. And in some ways, you still have to have a commercial element to it, but knowing I haven't made anything directly for Netflix, but you feel as though actually you've got the ability to try things that aren't so kind of driven. But what it was good for the investor back then was, of course, they could sell them on DVD. So if you're making a horror movie, they know that there's a lot of places they can get their money back. And funny enough, when I was flying out to do Severance, you know, HMV, Creep was number one on And that was my at the airport. I was like, my God, it's number one of the DVD. And it was like, I hadn't even thought of that. And it didn't really hit me at all because you're always thinking about the next one. So at the time, I say that I've literally I was celebrating for about 15 years having made my first film. I just carried on going to festivals and meeting, and celebrating. So it's not been wasted on me, put it that way.
Great. It's great.
I think, Chris, after that, so after because Severance has got quite an international feel, and both Creep and Severance have and I remember at the time, they both had a more, I don't want to say commercial, I've just said it, but they both had a more, I suppose,
I think you can say that, that's fair enough.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they had a more sort of, they seemed to be, there's a new wave of films coming out around the time of Creep, as a bunch, that suddenly all had, and it's the first time that I could actively feel the film industry having a more of a commercial sensibility in films that had to make money and sort of crowd pleaser in a way. And you were at the forefront of that. Did you take that further? Did you at any point early on try and take it to, I suppose, Triangle's got a very sort of American feel. What was the progression from, did you stick around
it's a good question. No, it's a good question. It's like every film I've made, I remember telling people when I was pitching Creep around, innocent, naive, just got out of film school. I'd be like, this movie's going to make 100 million quid. It's going to be a smash. And I think that whole period, I think, and I've always felt that though. I felt that about Triangle and felt like this is fucking great, and then it's been seen by like a million people on YouTube, but not many people saw it in the cinema, you know what I mean? So my plan was I was making a smash, and it's weird. I mean, I heard a story in reverse of that, which is the Ridley Scott story, which is that he made The Duelists, which he thought was going to be a smash and nobody saw. And as a result of that, even though it's a great film, he then made his whole objective to just make smash films. Those first two films, are in a way the most commercially viable of the ones I'd done. But I think that was of that time. I don't think that's the case now. I think if anything, looking back, I don't mean this in a sort of, I'm not in any bragging sort of way, but if I'd have made Triangle probably now, it would have probably been more relevant now than it was then. In the actual fact, people wanted more straight, direct crowd pleasers then, whereas now you've got films like Hereditary. There's a lot of those films now which are a little bit sort of smarter driven. So probably, it's like... It was, So the intention was to make them all hits, but there wasn't a pressure to do that. I think there was a lot of stuff being made at the time, remember, because it was easier to get money, because at the time there was a lot of money coming through government funds and stuff. So if you remember, looking back, there was a lot of stuff that the right-wing papers would say, look at this dross, what's been made, movies that were made like The Producers, the Mel Brooks, that actually didn't need to make money. You know what I mean? They were tax write-offs. And so there was a lot of that going on at the time. There was a lot of dross being made as well.
And that fades away as well, does it? The dross kind of vanishes and you only remember,
It does, yeah.
The apex.
I think the biggest thing of that is the 70s. We all go, 70s American movies. And then you actually look between the cracks.
Yes.
There were some terrible movies being made.
They all just slipped through. Yeah.
We just don't remember them. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went to film school and then you came out and made a couple of shorts, right, before you got Creep made. And like you said, you mentioned there about money, and money for all our listeners is so important. How did you go from film school, making a couple of shorts, to actually going, I've got a budget, I can make a movie? How did it happen for you? And
Giles, sorry, just to add, that's really good, Giles. Just to add to that, because the other thing is, what sets you, because we all leave film school doing that, what set you apart as well from those other filmmakers? That's the,
Well, I think what it is, and it's, when I look back now, and I think the greatest advice I can ever give is that when I left film school, I had written a script about, which is more of a sort of, in my head, a sort of David Mamet type thriller. And that was the movie I was pitching around. And very quickly, I learned that I wasn't going to be able to get that made. And I very quickly realized that actually follow where the money is was my immediate thing. So the way I immediately dropped the script that I'd spent a year writing, when someone said, I don't think you're going to get that made, come up with something like this, is to sort of be, and unfortunately, because I've been a great lover of horror movies, and it wasn't something that I was I was like, I love all movies. I want to make whatever. I just immediately wrote another one. But when I look back now with a bit of perspective, I realized that you have to put yourself in the shoes of the person who works at a film studio or works at the film council, as was then, and go, they don't want to lose their job. They might love your script. They will look at that script and then look for reasons to go, well, if this is an utter piece of crap, this thing that you've made, whose fault is it? And is it my fault for financing it? And I go, well, no, it's not my fault, because look, his shorts were good. He's got Franka Potente in it. She's a big European actress at the time. So you've got to sort of look at it and go, if you're trying to make a horror movie, it's easier to say to a prospective financier, look, I've done this short. I can do this and this and this. That's an easier sell. That certainly was back then than trying to say that I want to make this great searing drama about what it feels like to be, whatever character, whatever story. And likewise, when they start to watch the movie being made, they can see straight away, oh, that bit looks scary, or that bit's good, or that bit's good. And they also know they can sell the movie very easily. So, if you want to get into commercial stuff, back then it was quite easy, because you could just, I say easy, but, but likewise now it's like, yes, it's easy to get in to do, it's not easy, it's easier to do genre. But there's so much genre now that now actually genre is becoming very highbrow in a sense. So it's I mean, there's making your first film, and then there's making the right first film as well, isn't there?
Though sometimes it's good to just make a movie, because
for sure,
what we found a lot of the time now is that people are going, yeah, you can make a movie, but you've got to make one first. And you're kind of like, yeah, that's really hard for a lot of people. Get that all the time, and I certainly did when I started. It was like, well, you go make a movie and then we'll let you make one. It's like, that's kind of really crazy. So did your money come from, like, say, putting that out? And I mean, Jason Newmark, who's produced a lot of your movies, in fact, was on the first one with you with Creep. Was it a team effort? Did you find money from everywhere? Can you even remember?
Yeah, no, I can remember. What happened was that we had been, I mean, there's always obviously a patchwork of where you get money from. Primarily, we went to the what was then the British Film Council, and we had some money from Pathé. Pathé had agreed that they liked the script and were prepared to distribute it if you could get an actor off of this list to play the role of Kate. Franka Potente had just done the first Bourne movie, and she'd also done Run, Lola Run. So we sent it to her, and she was literally the first person that read the script, and she said yes. So that kind of was great. That meant we had Pathé. Then we had to go back to the Film Council, who were putting up the majority of the equity, if you like. And then I went in to see him. The guy, I think his name was Robert. It was Robert Jones, who is wonderful. Robert Jones, obviously gave me my first chance. So I love Robert, but he went in and he was doing exactly what I just said. He was looking at it going, okay, they got Pathé, they got Franka. He's a first-time filmmaker. He seems all right, but, what if it is going to be, if it doesn't work? So he said to me in that meeting, why don't we give you 10 grand? You go off and make a trial version of just one scene. And, and then we can all, and then we can all look at it, and it'll be a good exercise for you. And I remember looking at him, and I just went, and this didn't come out of anywhere. I just went, there's no point doing that. This film's going to be amazing. That's a total waste of time. It will never be as good without Franka in it. This movie's going to make 100 million quid. Let's not do that. And he just went, all right, let's just do it. And I didn't realize at the time, but Jason and Julie Bain said, you just talked your way into a movie then, because he was going, oh, I'm going to hedge my bets and see if this guy really can do it. And then because of the enthusiasm, he just went, oh, fuck it, let's just give it a roll. I believe you.
Do you think your enthusiasm does help as when you're pitching? I mean, you seem like you've got lots of enthusiasm, myself and CJ the same, but you seem that way. So I imagine when you're pitching, it comes across. And how important is it?
We imagine, Michael Haneke's not going to sit there in a meeting the same way that I sit there in a meeting, So it's kind of like, I think it depends on the film you're doing. I think if you're making a blistering, searing drama, and this guy comes, no, we're going to make a war movie, and it's going to be really tragic, and I'll be like, oh fuck, really? Is this guy the right guy for that? So it's a little bit of that.
So knowing where you fit in, I suppose, is the key thing.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that I do. I think I know that looking back, and again, go back and look at my other self, like in Triangle. But I remember having done Black Death. Ridley Scott loved Black Death, and I went to meet him, and he had all his team with him, and they fucking loved this film. And hey, what do you want to do next? I said, I want to do a Christmas movie. And they're like, okay. But you could see it. And then one of the execs from LA said, don't do a Christmas movie. Do something like Black Death again, because you're going to confuse the market. And I was like, no, I know what I'm doing. So it's like can only follow. There's never been a plan. You follow your heart, and you do make mistakes, and but ultimately you just got to keep going and show the enthusiasm, I think.
And do you know you're sort of the journey so far? Do you think you can identify your strengths pretty clearly, or are you pretty good at identifying what you're good and bad at?
No, I think what's happened and what's changed is that in the last 3 years, especially, I've been doing these big budget TV series and around. In one of the first things they said when I started to do TV, because obviously the world had changed, there's so much TV, was how are you going to do a TV schedule? And I found pretty quickly that TV schedules are longer than the schedules I was used to doing independent cinema. So they were like, I don't know what they were thinking, that I was coming at them like Kubrick or something else. Well, I'm going to finish the scene when I finish the scene. It's never been like that. But what it's taught me is actually that I've found that the ideas have stayed the same. I think I can find a way of being better with the camera now, and I think that So when it comes to kind of strengths and weaknesses, I think if you look through the prism of weaknesses, I've got a friend who's like, I said, mate, you should become a writer, and he's like, well, I'll never be as good as Dostoevsky. I was like, yeah. I'm never going to be Stanley Kubrick, but I'm still better than Joe Bloggs.
Exactly, I'm not going to give up. Yeah,
I'm not going to give up. So in terms of weaknesses, I think you've got to go. Yeah, I think I'm better now at realizing where I fit in. So I certainly didn't give any thought when I was starting out. It never entered my mind that I had made those two films. That there was never any moment where I went, oh, I should talk to an agent and get a manager because I'm doing okay here. I was just like, I've got to make it the next one. I've got to write the next one. I was never thinking about it. And now I look back, I think, Christ, I should have just gone to Hollywood or something, but it's all right. It's all good.
Yeah, that's fascinating because for us, we get this question asked to us all the time. When should we get a manager? When should we get an agent? And actually, sometimes finding your work on yourself is good. You can find your own journey and path with it. You don't necessarily need to be guided.
No, you don't. And I also don't think that they can. I think people find you, I think, as well. I think you might. Yeah, I mean, Ridley was obsessed that the village in Black Death, he was, obviously he's done so many movies of that period, and he'd just come off the back of Robin Hood, and he couldn't believe the village we had in Black Death. And he's like, how the hell? I mean, tell me you found that, right? You couldn't have built that because our village looked better than his village. And what it was is, and he had built his for £5 million. And what we had done is we'd found this real medieval society in East Germany who, during the communist days, had set up a so-called history club where they would all go along and dress up as medieval characters. But what they're really doing was trying to overthrow the communist dictatorship. And they were like, they were undercover sort of, free speech kind of guys.
Yeah, political LARPing. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. In costume. So everyone thought, they're weirdos. Leave them, but no.
Did you find the going from, like I say, Creep to Severance and then Triangle, was it a case of, okay, we've made that, now we'd like a little bit more money and a bigger cast, or was that just all happening at the same time? Because the reason I ask is going from second to third film is sometimes difficult for people.
Yeah, well, I realised that I only now in hindsight do I realise that because those first two films had made some money, that's how I got to do Triangle. I had actually came up with the idea for Triangle in Cannes when we were trying to sell Creep. So if I would have gone and tried to make Triangle as my second film, they would never have let me do it. And I realized that was quite a nuts film, and it didn't seem nuts to me at the time. But my wife's like, I never thought that movie would make money. It's like, didn't you? I did. Yeah.
Why did you tell me?
Yeah. So,
but at least she told you after the fact.
Yes.
She let she told you later.
She's very clear. She's like, Severance and Get Santa. That's her 2 films. She likes me when I do my funny ones. So.
Right. Yeah. It's that mix. So with Triangle, which is, I love Triangle. The making of Triangle, obviously there's a brilliant making of Severance, but I think the making of Triangle was one of the first I'd ever really seen on a DVD. Like that intense and that brilliant and that well done. I really enjoyed it. And I don't know if you're looking back at those now and going, oh my God, what was I talking about? What was I doing?
Do you look? Yeah, good point, Giles. Do you look at your old stuff?
No.
Never.
No, I said that to Mark Strong the other day. It's like, Mark, how do you look back and go, my God, look how young I was. Yeah, look how, I said, Mark looks young now. I mean, the thing with Mark is like, looks great anyway.
He looks amazing. Yeah.
But yeah, you sort of go, I think I think I could only make the movies I made then. I think Triangle and Black Death are very much, my wife would say, you should make more movies like the first 2. I'm like, no, those are the 2 films that I where I started to be able to make the films I thought I would make before Triangle's a film that I would have wanted to make before I made 2 horror movies. I mean, so it's that's where I was, that's the sort of films that, like Chris Nolan's, what's it called?
Following.
Yeah, The Following. No, and then what was the Memento, exactly.
Memento, yeah.
So Memento, it's like that. It was like that was the sort of ambition, really, to try and do something that makes you think about the process of the filmmaking while you're watching a thriller. So, yeah.
Do you think your process has changed then as a director? I know you mentioned earlier about you think more about your shots, or you feel like you've got a clever scope. But how, in terms of, do you see the bigger picture? Do you see how it can cut together? What do you look for now when you're finding things?
Even in the first one, I was always able to stop thinking about the boards and let the film make itself, and know how the film was always going to be. I was never making it shot by shot and then sticking it all together. I always knew what the whole thing, how it was shaping as I was doing it. I think what I know now is how to balance the rest of the production. When you hear about Orson Welles doing his first film at 25, it's not, wow, he could storyboard them and put the shots together. You've got to be able to play poker with the money men. You've got to be able to think about production design, think about costume, so it's not a case of just your job, their job. It's actually, how do you play all of those departments so that you don't think you know everyone's job, but everyone is encouraged and invigorated by your job. So it all starts to happen as one. And I think that's what's changed in my work in the last 3 years, is that I now know that I can, that wasn't there that was there because each department was operating. I wasn't over everything the way I am now. I was certainly more, I was very obsessed with my role in terms of like the shots for Triangle, the fact I'd written it, the way it would all work. Now, if I was doing Triangle, I would be all over every single other aspect of it a bit more than I was back then, because you've got only your skill set increases as you go on. So I'm now able to, I actually know what their jobs are. I know the role of a line producer now, and I know when they are lying to me, or
where they fuck up.
Yeah, yes. And when they, and I'm aware of that. Actually, do I really need that crane? And I think a good story for that was when I was doing Black Death. He was a great line producer, a guy called Udo, and he came up to me and said, "Chris, the knights can't all have a horse. There's no way with this schedule you can have 6 actors on horses when most of them can't really ride a horse and try and make that schedule." He said, "Well, how many horses should I have?" And he said, "You should have 2 and give both of them to Sean." And I went, "What a fucking great idea. And they can walk." He said, "There you go." Yeah, and that's a good line producer.
Sean Bean gets 2. Yeah.
He gets 2. It's great. He gets a spare because he's the knight, and the rest walk. And why I thought that was clever is that he gave me an idea, which then gave me ideas, rather than just saying you can't have the horses.
You got a story solution rather than just
exactly right.
Can't have it. Whatever you solve the narrative issue. Yeah.
We will now have a short intermission. Oh, what I meant to say to all you lovely listeners, and by the way, thank you for listening. We do love you, and we do love your continued support, that you continuously listen to our episodes. I know who you are. I check every single one of you every week. I don't, that'd be creepy. But I know that a lot of you continuously listen to this, and thank you, you're amazing. And for those of you who said hello, and I do listen and I love it, I really appreciate that. We have set up the Patreon page properly now. There's a lot of P's in that sentence.
That's good. I think you wear it well, Giles.
Thank you.
Key away.
I've got my proper shield.
Yeah.
But yes, we've set the Patreon page up. We had it up ages ago. Maybe about 6 months ago. But we didn't, I just said, it's here. But now we've set it up properly. Now, this isn't a cap in hand type thing where we're saying, come support us just because you're listening, which is nice in itself. But we thought if we
give you stuff.
We thought if we're going to do the Patreon, we're going to give you stuff that's worthwhile doing it for. And there's some
good
cool
shit too.
As hell good shit, as CJ says. So, if you just want to put £2 in, CJ, what can they get? This is our supporter level, it's called.
You get 5% discount on the Filmmakers Pod merch and our unending gratitude for your lovely support.
That's what you get for just joining. So just come and say hello.
It's less than a coffee a month.
It's
Depends
less
if you
than
get coffee, of course.
Exactly.
And it depends if you go for oat or soya or standard milk, small, medium, large.
Yeah.
It depends on, or an espresso,
full
just
cow,
a short, full cow. Exactly.
Or healthy option.
Obviously
Your
there's
choice.
I've got to caveat this with, it depends what type of coffee you get, but I'd say your average coffee, £2 a month is going to be less than that. So I think that's pretty clear there. £2 a month.
But you get 5% off our great merch. Links to that will be in the show notes. But for £4 a month, this is the Insider. Now, this is where
that's a coffee and a half.
Coffee and a half. You get ad-free Filmmakers Podcast episodes 24 hours before the rest of the world, and you get access to our twice monthly mini-sodes where our hosts, sometimes myself and CJ, chat about some of the on-the-ground experiences in filmmaking world. But not only that, CJ, what else do they get?
And 10% off the Filmmakers Podcast merch.
There you go. You get 10% off.
Perfect.
It gets better. So now for £7 a month,
which is a coffee and probably a cake, I'd say.
Yeah,
coffee, pastry.
Yeah,
I'd say a large coffee and a pastry.
A nice vegan pastry.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. So for this, you get all the other benefits, but you also get access to our Q&A live streams, where you can ask us anything and everything about the filmmaking world. Oh my gosh. And
access to Desert Island DVDs,
which is our segment where we ask some of the biggest names in the world of film the 3 films they take with them if all else was lost. It's basically a rip-off of Desert Island discs, but we did it Desert Island DVDs because we still watch DVDs. And finally, CJ, what do they get?
15% off all Filmmakers Pod merch.
That is incredible. Not only that, there is a 4th level, ladies and gentlemen. How much is it in English pounds on yours? Because it's in dollars on mine.
Giles, it's £10 a month. 10 freaking pounds. Now, really, that's going to be probably 2 coffees. So this is probably like you and a mate. Large coffee each and maybe a pastry each. You're probably in for a tenner there. That's all.
You can half that vegan croissant.
Yeah.
This is the director level. In addition to all the benefits of the Insider and producer tiers, directors receive
the suggestion box.
Woohoo!
Yes.
You get the suggestion box.
This is a genuinely great feature, actually. This is
CJ's reading it for the first time.
What the fuck? Why? I need to join this. I need to start suggesting things. Giles might listen to me. I'm going to join this.
It's a suggestion box where you can suggest future content for the show. Not only that, but you get our personal thanks by name at the end of every episode of the podcast. And not only that, CJ, what else do they get?
20% off all Filmmakers Podcast merchandise, as well as the ad-free content, the monthly minisodes, the early access, the Desert Island DVDs, the live Q&As, the Filmmakers Suggestion Box, we know that, the Patreon chat, and that stuff we know about. Anyways, it's dynamite.
It's dynamite. So look, that's why we're doing this. Because not only will you support the podcast, but also we're giving a lot back to you. So, link to that is in the show notes. Dive in, do something cool today, and sign up to our Patreon. Patreon.com/The Filmmakers Podcast. Amazing. You get all that. Come join us, be part of the tribe, and actually, if you're really cool, I might get you on an episode. I didn't say that out loud. That should be like a fifth tier, but I did say it out loud. But anyway, let's get back to the episode. This was a mini advert in there for our Patreon. Thank you so much. Back to Christopher Smith.
So how does that affect your films on set? And looking back on the stuff you've done, has, say, Severance been a massively different vibe to, say, Black Death? I know some actors have crossed over, but, you've worked with sort of comedic actors with comedic performances like Rafe Spall, and then, more recently, Sean Harris. So you've sort of worked, how does that affect your vibe on set? And how do you keep that, how do you cultivate that?
Yeah, I think as you can see, I'm naturally, I like people, so I'm naturally very kind of, I like a nice vibe. I think I will make mistakes. I will come in with enthusiasm and I'll go, fuck, that was an idiot idea. What an idiot. That's a terrible idea. and literally hold my hand up and say, no, that was the worst director's note ever. Or, I've done things like I've done a take and the actor's done it. And then 4 takes down the line, I've like, could you play me back the first take, please? Because I think all of my notes have made you worse. And then we'd watch the first one. But because I say that to the actor, they know you're smart.
Yes.
Because they know if I lie to them, and actors are shrewd people who lie for a living. It's their job to pretend to be other people. If you bullshit them, they're going to go, well, my first one's the best one, and you learn that off of people like, I remember on Black Death, I got, what's his name? God, come on, Chris. He was in The Omen, plays the Bishop, David Warner. So David Warner's very first day was the very first day with, obviously, Eddie Redmayne was in that before he was Eddie Redmayne. So it was kind of, he was a young actor, so we were just together. And David Warner was just doing this, what felt in person the most ridiculous performance I've ever seen in my life. So I was just trying to bring him down, and make him less and less and less. And it just didn't get any better. So we just said, oh, good, that's it, cut. And then I watched the rushes going, oh, my fucking God, I think I can't work with him, And he was really nervous, David, because of the fact he could tell the director wasn't happy. I played it back. His first take was fucking brilliant, and I had made him steadily worse. So the next day I told him, I said, I fucked up your performance yesterday. And he went, oh, darling, no one's ever been honest with me before. It was just like,
great.
So just be honest,
totally.
It doesn't make you an idiot. It makes you the opposite. And so I think that carries through into how we create that vibe on set. Sean is looking, Sean Harris, I get on with Sean. I consider Sean a mate, but Sean could be tricky, but he's and certainly he did my first film and he did my last film. And he is in the middle, gone on to work with, Tom Cruise and done everything. He's worked with the best crews in the world. So if he feels something's not working, just like I was saying, I understand what everyone else's job is. Sean understands what absolutely fucking everybody's job is. And if he thinks you're not putting as much effort in as you, he will tell you. And that applies to me and that applies to himself because he does a lot of work. So you've got to kind of get your game up when you're working with people like that. They're not going to, like some actors can literally just read the script and go, oh, I'm a doctor. Didn't know that. Okay, I'll do my doctor face, and it's brilliant. They literally barely read the script.
Yeah, it's an Oscar-winning performance. Yeah,
exactly. I'm a doctor.
If it's a mate as well, I suppose it can always sort of be like, oh, it's a mate coming into this role, but you've got to be, as you say, if you're not on your A game and you haven't thought through every permutation of their role that they have, you're suddenly caught off guard, I guess.
Totally, yeah. And Sean will call you on it. You know what I mean? He will call you on it, and I work with John Hurt, who's read a scene and gone, oh, God, another unlikely scene. How are we going to fix this one, Chris? And that's how the day would start. And I was like, I was a bit worried about why you're doing that, John. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do that. So, and I think that because I've always approached it and gone, things probably aren't going to go the way you want it to go. And I think the filmmakers that are very locked in to the sort of Hitchcock school of I've storyboarded absolutely every frame and this is what we're going to do. You have to stand here. You think back to the Gene Hackman story when he says, okay, so Gene, so you pick up this glass and you walk over there and you put it down and he says, wait, well, I'm going to stop you there. I don't move props. That's not my job. But you've got your camera plan. You say, I'm not fucking touching that cup. I don't want to hold a cup, and it's saying some actors are like that, and so you've got to be a little bit fluid.
There was a Sam Raimi story, wasn't there? Sam Raimi on Quick and the Dead had Gene Hackman, and he said the first day Gene Hackman saw the storyboards and didn't do anything he asked, did the opposite, wouldn't do a thing. And he later found out that a assistant was taking Hackman the storyboards every day, something like this. And then he quickly said, because Raimi boards everything, within an inch of its life, or within an inch of its life. And he said to the assistant, don't take Gene any more storyboards, ever. And they had to hide them and take them all down. So Gene couldn't see any storyboards, and therefore it was all, how about we, and make it,
like
show
it's
what you
happening
got,
on
Gene,
the spot.
and then I'll work my shot around you. And he was happy. But you often hear that some actors that if you've boarded it, they'll be like, not doing that.
It's fascinating,
isn't it? But if you think about it, if the director has come up with an idea which looks pretty, but which no human being would ever do, certainly not, it's like his best friend's just died, he's down there, his friend, but you wanted me to stand up on that waterfall while I
just
you best have a fucking good reason for it. Stand by that window. You best have a good reason for it.
You do, and I suppose it teaches you as a director, producer, to understand actors. And you've done it because you've worked with so many. But when you're first starting out, actors can be really scary. It's like, oh my gosh, these are big actors and stuff. And actually,
they still can be.
They still can. You're right.
They still can be.
But it's understanding what they've got to go through. And the more you can understand that, the easier it is to talk to them about it, rather than going, just stand there and do this. Why aren't you pouring blood all over your face or jumping out the window? I don't understand.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, 99% of the time, they're playing up because they are unhappy or nervous or insecure about the role, or there's some real reason for it. And there does come a time sometimes, and I've only learned that recently, where you have the whole carrot and the stick thing. And sometimes actually you have to say, no, we're doing it this way. I don't, thanks for the thought, and you have got to lay because there's 7 actors in front of you, and who's in charge here? And eventually you lose the other 6 if you just obsess over the one. So you've got to kind of find that balance, and that's all stuff that comes with experience in a way,
Yeah, this is incredible. And, like I say, we haven't mentioned Detour. It's, really cool action thriller, but we want to talk about The Banishing as much as possible because it is out on the 26th of March. It is super. It's going to be on Shudder as well, which is just great because Shudder's huge at the moment with everything that's going on.
I love Shudder, yeah. I just managed to finally watch Wolf Creek 2, which I enjoyed. So I enjoyed that. It was funny. It was kind of a weird little, he went off, well, let's get to know the guy more. But I enjoyed it. And that's on Shudder. So there we go.
Yeah. And Host has done really well there. And we had Jed Shepherd on, who is one of the writers and producers of Host. And Host it blew up with Shudder. And Shudder is now, the British, the UK, it's really well known across the world. But it's really blown up in the UK. And it is a place, if you love your horror, you get on Shudder. So it's great The Banishing got on there. So The Banishing, it's the story of the most haunted house in England in 1930s, about a young reverend, his wife and daughter move into the manor house, and it has a horrifying secret.
Dear God, thank you for bringing us together as a family.
Hope you're both settling in well.
Yes, thank you, Father.
We'll make it a home in every room.
Amen.
Over there is bedroom. That is the living room. And this is the dining room.
What's this room?
You're not to go there. You're forbidden. What's the time, Mr. Wolf? What's the time, Mr. Wolf? What's the time, Mr. Wolf?
Addy?
There has been a man seen in town this afternoon. He's a charlatan, a storyteller. He's dangerous.
Why have you placed the young couple in that house?
They shouldn't be there.
Have you seen things in the night, perhaps? Heard whispers?
You're talking about the voices?
What did you hear?
It was nothing.
It's written by Ray and Dean Bogdanovich and Lyons and David Betton as well, who I know as well, which is really cool. That did this script come to you? How did you seek it out?
Yeah, it was. I kind of. I'd already started to write. I mean, I've written 2 films, horrors that are kind of in the pipeline. And so it'd gone to this stage where I'd got these films and I'd written them and I hadn't quite got them across the line with the scripts. And then this one was floating around. I was literally so dying to get back on set, and I really liked and I'd never done a haunted house story, and obviously I don't believe in ghosts. There are no ghosts. The ghosts are inside of you. They are which is why I'm obsessed with this whole triangle model, which is why you're seeing elements of it there. What scares me is where you could end up in depression or in all of these thoughts where these wormholes you can go down that can make a house feel terrible. I think, obviously, I'm not. I wouldn't be myself if I said I. But someone asked me, has anything supernatural ever happened to you? No, of course not. No.
It was
There's
my
been
mate.
moments where I felt uneasy when I walked through a forest, but it's probably to do with some instilled fear that was given to me as a child. Don't walk on your own in a forest.
Yes.
I'm a grown man now. My son goes, Daddy, are you ever scared when you go downstairs to check on, sometimes, but not really, because I don't feel scared because I'm a man now. But my son would be like, Dad, what's that noise? It's a tree tapping the front window. It's not a ghost, son. So, but you can get very scared. And so the script the guys had written was definitely more of a traditional kind of ghost story. And I was very much like with a lot of effects that we knew we couldn't get to. So I just started to develop it and say, look, let's try and do some of the things that I'm interested in. The idea that and certainly in this film, there's an idea that the judgment of others, very much the husband judges the wife. He judges her because she's had sex out of marriage. He judges her for being sexually free, and he is there's a monster in that house, and it's actually the opinions of the husband, and likewise in the society she's been brought up in, she judges herself. She blames herself. He's walking around going, bloody woman, bloody mad cow. You're joking about on set. It's kind of like a sort of 1940s version of a marriage, but she's as judgmental to herself. And it's this idea of there is a haunted house. The house is evil. There is this sense of evil within the house. I'd like to turn that evil, which is real, it really is a haunted house in the film, into something about their own lives. And also, one thing that was absent when I first read the script is it was 1938. I was like, come on, where's World War II? So suddenly we started to put the themes of fascism in, and the idea that the evil of this house can manipulate good people and make them do bad things, and the idea that fascism is this intoxicating, vile thing that can make good men do bad things. And so we try to sort of connect all those dots together in the script, and that was certainly something that I brought to it when I got involved.
Amazing. And you really have. I mean, it's really, I love all the little themes and the little touches and the stuff that goes on in the background of real life. And you've sort of woven that in brilliantly. And the church involved massively and how that affects people. And, being a reverend is really interesting. And that location is, wow, that house, is it a real house? Because it's fantastic.
Yeah. We realized very early on that we had only, it was probably the lowest budget I'd worked with, in the sense of that, we had to spend money wisely. We found a house that would allow us to go in there and do the lion's share of the film. Obviously, the house you see is fantastic. Is actually what we're using in the film is a 10th of the size of the house. So what you're seeing when they arrive at the house is, I think, the servants' quarters of this massive house.
Because it's cut off on the right-hand side, isn't it?
Yeah. It's actually a mansion, And so the man who owns it needs as much money to run those big estates.
So it's like, film crew, come in, darling.
Please. And we're like, you can use anything. I was like, no, we can't use. So we've used about 10% of the house.
Wow.
And what was interesting was we chose the rooms that had the best wallpaper. So we managed to so we designed it in a way of, here's 10 rooms, let's choose the best, not let's redesign it. So let's use that one for this. And so we used lots of nooks and crannies of the house. And that's, so I'm pleased with the way that the design of it kind of came through.
And with the budget in mind, did you change or alter the film or any of your sort of, I suppose, your spooky set pieces? Did you mould or shape them to the house, to the location?
Yeah, so it wasn't with budget in mind so much. It was more the idea of the house has a gateway, and it lets you look deep inside yourself as well as the house. And so she starts to look in the mirror, and is her life mirroring the girl that was there before, that you realize, because obviously is she the baddie, the woman, or is it, no, it's the monks, and it's trying to use those images that I've dealt with before. So I definitely was inspired to revisit some of the themes of Triangle, but mostly like the view of the women all stood up on the multiple versions of Jess up on the wall. That came from images that I'd seen a long time ago of sanatoriums where these women were going through this obsession of, without their medication, they were mimicking each other and all stood on the wall, all these different women, or, not obviously elevated off the wall, but all, they were all copying each other. And I just thought, let's try and use images that haunt you, as much as the standard jumps, try and find spooky images. So a lot of the film was built around trying to make you feel uneasy. I mean, because the alternative, James Watkins' film with, the Woman in Black, for example, I really respect that film because it was like a Harry Potter horror movie in a way. And I think James did a brilliant job of it. It didn't scare me, but it was brilliant set pieces. And it's like, if you look at that as a sort of quintessential modern version of the Haunted House movie, I was like, well, what can we do to remove it? And I sort of think scrape under the tablecloth, excuse the ridiculous metaphor of a marriage, under the tablecloth.
Indeed.
How eloquent is that?
Yes.
And see what this. There's a quote. Perfect.
There's a quote for the
scrapes beneath the tablecloth of a marriage.
It's the scrape under the tablecloth genre. We've all been there. We know that one. You're inventing it, Chris.
Under the tablecloth. Forget that. Cups. But yeah. So and sort of dig into jealousy and the other sort of disgusting elements of being judgmental and all those things that make you feel uneasy. And the sleazy John Lynch play,
it's great.
Malachi, played by John Lynch.
Yes.
Very sleazy, and John does that so brilliantly that you just don't know about him.
Yeah, how do you get performances then like that? Because, like I said, a lot of your films, you go into the mind of characters, and Jessica Brown Findlay's fantastic, John Lynch, Sean Harris, the amazing cast, John Heffernan as well. And I think it's really fascinating what's happening with them. How did you talk to them here to make sure you're getting that level of fear, that level of anxiety and repression?
Yeah, you push when you think there's not enough, but you understand, and I think one of the things I've learned, many things I've learned, is that, and I'm still a film student in the sense that you're still learning on every job, is that actors are where they are because of where they are, and they will often bring something better than you could have imagined. So Jess, I worked with before on a TV show called Labyrinth, who was great then, has just come on in the same way that I may have come on as a filmmaker, as an actor, and she's just was electric in that film, and so much so I want to work with her again. And so and even recently when I was doing this scene with Mark Strong, funny enough, on the series Temple, I just said, Mark, this scene, just go for it, like kind of Harvey Keitel in Bad Lieutenant when he's literally spitting and crying in front of Christ. Give it a level 10. And you go, okay, great. And you just do it. And I think so you've got to that sort of space where you can just talk like that. And if you're working with actors who are brilliant, they will give you more than you could have imagined. Whereas I think a lot of young filmmakers are using their mates people who are so-called actors. So what you want, the best director in the world ain't going to get, because you can only do so much with the level of cast you're working with. So in a weird way, your life gets easier the better the actors you get to work with, because they can just do it.
Right. So that comes from experience and longevity of keeping going in the business, and therefore you can get the better cast. Was it easy to get this cast? Because it's a great level of cast, but you mentioned budget wasn't necessarily what you're used to.
No, I think Sean did it because I wrote to Sean, and he did it because he thought, look, like I say, we've stayed in touch since Creep, and he really loved the idea of doing Harry Price. He said, listen, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna do I'm gonna do it big. I'm like, yeah, go for it. That's some of my favorite characters, like Anthony Hopkins in Dracula and Bram Stoker. I love the way he acts in that. It's fucking ridiculous. I mean, I prefer Anthony Hopkins to the Brian Cox Lecter. I don't give a shit.
I'm with you. Yeah, no, I agree.
It's just really flowery, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I want actors to act and to go for it. But big performances that you see in all the in all the Kubrick films, you've got to be brave to do those, because a lot of actors and directors they come from a place of, let's make it realistic. And actually, that's not interesting, as Kubrick said. What's interesting is really fucking big, but you've got to be really good to do it. And this is probably the first time I've gone, let's just go for it. Let's I'll tell you if I think it's too big. And I did. I pulled Sean down. I pulled Sean up. I pushed him up and down. It depends on, and it's just really about gauging it and letting the actor trust you. And if you tell an actor to pull it back, they do trust you more.
You let them go, but bring them.
But also to say, go for it. Be brave. You can't be bad, and so on.
Yeah, so once you've got that trust, it's much easier to play in the sandbox, basically, and have that time to do it. So, obviously, Banishing is just absolutely brilliant, and everyone should go watch this now. But is there any advice you can give people who might be starting out now, they're thinking about it, or they're making their second, third film, that you're thinking, God, I wish I'd had that bit of advice? Is there anything you can impart, any pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one, because when people say to me, how did you get into making films? And I said, well, when I was 7, I started collecting film magazines, and I watched thousands and thousands and thousands of films. That's the first thing. It's like I've literally been a film geek my whole life. And so and that currency of being able to talk about most of cinema with people is a big plus. If you have been very specific in what you've watched, that's fine. If you've only been into musicals, but you know more about musicals than anybody else, you went and did dance at college, and you want to make a musical, that's also fine. So I think the advice is to find something is to find the right sort of first film, or the right sort of, if you've made 3 shorts or 3 features that were made off your own money, and you want to move, is to find a script that you think has an idea that you can tell someone in a nutshell, and they get it. And they go, certainly that's the easier way. Girl gets locked in the underground and there's a monster down there or something. That is really sick. It's probably the best pitch I've ever had. So simple. It's like, and then find a grown up. Someone, by grown up I mean someone. So it's not just you're the first time filmmaker, and your mate's the first time producer, and you're going to get your first time editor mate on it, and your first time cameraman on it. The person who's putting the money in is like, if you're the weak link in the team and everyone else is a grown up around you, that's the best way. And then you can get your friends in and start to help once you've got a bit more say. So try to sort of box clever, I would say.
Brilliant advice. Absolutely amazing. CJ, have you got one last question?
Oh man,
so many. I know.
No, I could talk to Chris for hours and hours and hours. Chris, I always remember for many years ago, I think it was Black Death. I was, I think I come along to a screening of Black Death. I think you were doing some sort of it might have been a premiere, but I always remember that ever since I've previewed or premiered anything ever since, I always remembered how excited and nervous you were, and I always remember sort of like, but you were holding it in quite well. You were doing a good job of like shaking hands and keeping things moving. Yet you seemed slightly pressured.
No, I was nervous. I think that was
your film.
Was that the one when Eddie was there, and it was like a smaller screen? It was
yeah.
It was a really nice screening when it was all, we were all like, it felt like a real, like we were in some small indie
in a really old cinema. It's been knocked down now, isn't it?
Where was it?
Yeah, I think it was in an old cinema. I think
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was. And we were all in a courtyard or something, it felt like. And it was great. Yeah, and it was just, listen, you until you watch it with real people, you don't know, you really start to feel when it gets boring. I remember one funny story I had this thing where I was making Triangle and I was really worried about this one scene. And me and the editor were thinking, is it boring in this scene? And we're like, I think we just think it is because we've watched it too many times. And so we got a mate of mine in and he watched it with us. And we got to the boring bit and just checks how he responds to this. And as it plays out, he looks to me and goes, Chris, is that 50 quid I owe you? And I realised, no, it was a boring bit because it was the moment he started to drift off and think I owe Chris 50 quid. So
it's amazing.
It's only when you watch it you realise. And so obviously after you've made it, as you both know, it's like then you really are going to start to feel it because it's too late then. And you know there's going to be a review tomorrow and you're only going to look at the worst one.
Reviews don't get started. It's horrible, isn't it? But yes, like I say, so happy to have you on this podcast, Chris. Since I first started doing this, your name's been on the list to have you on, so it's been an absolute delight. Where can people find you on the socials? Is there anywhere they can follow you and say they love The Banishing?
I've never really done it. I've always, I did it once, and then I realised I'm gonna be just. I just thought it's not safe. I'm so easy to tell you what I think. Everything I say comes across better with me saying it than it does in print. So right. Like the tablecloth. Do you know what I mean? If I was to be drunk and write, this is, so not really. No, not really. I should do, but I hope everyone enjoys it. I'm really proud of how it's turned out and proud of, I'm really grateful to the West End. They really supported the film. And Shudder are going to do a fab job. So, and thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this. It's been great.
Chris, you are a star. Thank you so much, and well done on your career. Honestly,
I've got to get my stitches out now.
Go get your stitches out.
I've got to rush off. Sorry, everybody.
We'll be nice peeling one underneath the tablecloth.
Exactly.
Thanks, Chris. You're a
cool.
star. We'll speak soon.
Cheers.
Send my best to Mark.
Cheers,
I will
buddy.
Do.
Bye-bye.
Bye. The Banishing is out now. Go support. It's on Shudder. Vertigo are behind this, and West End Films are behind this. Go support Christopher Smith, and then go watch all his other brilliant movies. Honestly, he's got an amazing back catalogue. So much great TV as well. So cool. So diverse and amazing, and it's really inspiring for filmmakers to go see what he's done. And what an inspiring and energetic guy as well. So, and you can do that if you want. Listen to Chris, and you can go out there and make your film, do what he did. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, and it is your duty, as Chris has done, to send the elevator back down. CJ, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.
And where can people find you on the socials?
At C James Direct. Although not much is happening at the moment, and I can smell things are about to happen.
They are.
Smell it, Giles.
They are. Honestly, it's about to break out. I'm so excited.
Well, have we just tempted fate?
Oh, don't say that now.
No,
it's true though. We could have tempted fate, but no, I do feel it. For some people, it might not be us, but some people, it's going to kick off. It's going to kick off. It's going to
The wheels are turning.
Yeah, the wheels are turning. And remember, our episode on Friday is a very special edition of our making of David Fincher's Mank. Look out for that on Friday. If you've enjoyed this, thank you so much for listening. Do tell your pals, that's how we grow. And if you're feeling very kind, go onto iTunes and give us a lovely 5-star review. And if it's written well, we will tweet it out for you. And I might even say it on the podcast and give you a shout out. The glamour and the adulation you will feel. And join us on the Patreon. We will see you on there. Get on it. Link is in the show notes. I've been Giles Alderson. You can follow me at Giles Alderson on Twitter. You can follow the podcast at FilmmakersPod on Twitter or the Filmmakers Podcast on Instagram. If you want to get in touch, the Filmmakerspodcast at gmail.com. Go to our website and see all our back catalogue of episodes and type in whatever genre or whatever. If you want acting, if you want just directors, you want producers, type it in and you will find all those episodes on there for you. Until next Tuesday, go out there, make your film, make it happen. We love you. Thank you for listening. CJ, bye-bye.
Why, have they got to make their film by next Tuesday?
By next Tuesday. If they don't, they lose.
You're tough, Giles.
I know. Okay. Tough love. Take care, everyone. Bye.